Let's start today with some of Joe Biden's recent accomplishments. On the bonus show today, we'll be talking about President Joe Biden's first presidential veto that was ordered. I'm not going to do that now because we have a plan to talk about it a little bit later. But as the former president seems to be closer and closer to a criminal indictment, it's important not to lose sight of the fact that without controversy, without drama, without drawing with a Sharpie on a hurricane map or asking about nuking Europe or a hurricane or whatever the case may be, Joe Biden has accomplished a bunch of little things, none of which individually are completely mind-blowing, but it's a lot of little, very important things. Let me know if you find this interesting. Let me know if you find this informative. Here's some examples. The FCC is going to release some additional funds this week to support what's called the Affordable Connectivity Program. And this is a program, it's part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed under Joe Biden, and it will provide households that are eligible with a $30 credit towards the cost of their internet service plan or a $75 monthly credit for households living on tribal land towards their internet service. And so the idea here is get more people broadband. The effect, you might say, well, how many people will that help? It'll help a bunch of people, and then it's expected to get broadband to 16 million households that don't currently have it. That's like 5% of the United States. That's a really big deal. It's not a new healthcare plan, but it is a program with a measurable benefit that will get something that is increasingly a requirement. How do you exist in the world and avail yourself of all of the normal amenities that many of us take for granted if you don't have broadband internet? Well, this will get 16 million households broadband internet. That's a great thing. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, is releasing $500 million in low-income home energy assistance funds. And the idea here is help people cover home heating costs. We've had inflation, energy prices are high. The Biden administration in November announced the distribution of a bunch of this money, and it is now happening, and it's getting a little bit of a bump to help people pay for heating. This is a great thing. Again, it doesn't solve the problem that groceries are expensive. It doesn't deal with stagnant wages, but now we've got credits towards broadband and funds for home heating. That's a really great thing. Then we go to prescription drugs. There are new details on which Medicare Part B drugs. Now, remember, if you get access to the bonus show, we recently talked about what are these drugs. Medicare Part B drugs are expensive drugs administered by doctors. If the prices of certain drugs go up faster than inflation, there are going to be funds to subsidize the cost of those drugs back down. Does this fix the problem of healthcare prices or prescription drug costs? No, but it's going to identify drugs that will be qualified for inflation rebates or excessive price increases when the price of these drugs goes up above and beyond the cost of inflation. And so people who benefit from these funds will see the prices of these drugs to them lowered in some cases significantly. That's another really great thing. Now we go to the EPA. It's really broad spectrum stuff. We go to the EPA. The EPA has taken a step forward in delivering clean water, particularly to disadvantaged communities, by proposing some new standards, national standards for drinking water, contamination levels, and what amounts of certain elements are allowed to be there in terms of PFAS substances. This is expected to prevent thousands of deaths and reduce by tens of thousands the number of illnesses attributable to those types of water contaminants. Is it perfect? No. Does it fix everybody's water everywhere? No, it certainly doesn't. But is it a good thing with a measurable impact? Yes, it is. And then a couple other small things. Department of Transportation is launching its community electric vehicle charging program. Oh, but not everybody can afford electric vehicles. Right. But as we go towards affordability, hopefully, one of the big impediments is having infrastructure to charge your car where you live and or work. And the Department of Transportation is launching that. That's a program that was previously put in place, but it is now launching. And then the Department of Energy is moving forward with $750 million for clean hydrogen research. Now, I know there are people who say, David, hydrogen fuel is not the future. Well, it might be. It might not be the future for vehicles, but maybe it is elsewhere. It's certainly something that should be researched, and that money is now being made available. These are all modest changes that will have measurable positive impacts for, in some cases, thousands or tens of thousands, or with some of these bigger programs, even millions of people, quietly accomplishing things. Couple different thoughts. Number one, is this interesting to people? Is it interesting to hear about some of these things that are happening? Number two, is there a disconnect between those who benefit from these programs and making the connection that, oh, this is because either of the Inflation Reduction Act or because of other programs? I like that. Maybe I am more satisfied with Joe Biden's job performance than I thought. And what I mean by that is very often people are asked, do you approve or not of the job that the president is doing? And oftentimes people say, I do or I don't. And very often it's driven by what's in the news. Oh, the Afghanistan withdrawal went well or it didn't go well. I approve or I disapprove. When you would think if people were more aware of some of these programs, if you're now getting $30 a month towards broadband and they're starting to build charging stations near where you live, and you're getting home heating assistance and a Medicare Part B drug is now being subsidized for you, that's tangible stuff. But only if you know about it might it influence your level of satisfaction with the job that Joe Biden is doing. So that's another aspect to this. Let me know your thoughts. Do you want to regularly hear these sorts of updates? Curious to hear what people think.